My name is Rob Wagner. I'm the Scene Studio Supervisor at the Department of Theater and Drama at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I chose theater because I discovered Leonardo da Vinci at the age of 9 and was fascinated with someone who could do all the different disciplines: engineering, music, art, drawing, painting, everything. And I decided I wanted to be a Renaissance man for a living. And unfortunately, in the latter half of the 20th century, there wasn't much call for Renaissance men for pay, and theater was the closest thing I could find that allowed me to do all of the things I was interested in one discipline and work with some very creative people. I have 3 degrees in theater. My sophomore year in high school, I decided this is what I wanted to do for a living, and from that point on, I began looking for skills and training that people would pay me for to do this for a living. And I have an Associate of Arts in Technical Theater. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Northern Illinois University in Scene Design, and I have a Master of Fine Arts in Technical Direction from the University of Texas at Austin. I came home from a job fair and I was very disillusioned because I was talking to marketing professionals and advertising professionals, and that's what I thought I wanted to go into, and I was not impressed by the people I met. And my mom realized that I was very disillusioned, and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to do advertising and marketing." And she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to do theater." And she said, "I never thought you'd do anything else." And at that point, she gave me the best advice I ever had, which was, do what you love, but get good enough at it that someone will pay you to do it. So from sophomore year in high school, I was actively looking at skills that made me marketable. I've been a scenic artist, I've been a scene designer, I've been a technical director a whole bunch of times, I've been a master carpenter, I've done special effects, I've been a props carpenter, I've done basically everything except costumes and makeup professionally. Designers come up with problems and they tend to have to work alone in their studio, and I much prefer being in the shop working with other people solving problems. I much prefer being given a complete package and saying, we're not sure how we're going to make this work, but it needs to be able to do this, and we have this much money to do it with. And I like taking that puzzle, breaking it into pieces, figuring out how much the pieces cost, and then being able to tell the creative people, here's how we're going to solve this, here's how this is going to work. We've got 3 options for how to do this, we've got 2 options for how to do this. Please let me know how you want to proceed, and then work with people.
Yeah, but it just felt heavy.
What we need to do is we need to separate the crossbar first.
We didn't want to do that yet because we didn't know we were taking it.
We were already there, I'm sorry. I was helping Edgewood load out and I lost complete track. Keep your arms and hands inside the rat at all times.
We gotta go all the way around so that this is...
No, we won't make it all the way around. We'll make it
Oh, this is the thing.
pull the seam where Angie is, because that's a vertical, and then this rectangle comes down and the corner still supports it. Does that work?
I'm gonna say shanana to that.
Remember, you want to walk hand over hand, and once it starts to go, pick up speed. You need to go a little faster. I got a little bit of faster. Yeah, down.
Oh, that's interesting. We're gonna tear that apart in place then?
Yes. This is the next step. All the way down to the ground.
That is out for money.
So I really am backstage. I only acted ever once in one show. It was the first show I was ever in, and I hated being on stage. I hated acting, I hated being on stage, and I've been doing everything else in theater for 3/4 of my life. It's a blast. Little Shop was produced in the summer. I was the scene designer and the technical director. It's actually the 4th time I've done the show. And it's the 3rd time I've done the show on a turntable. And the reason I suggested doing a turntable is because I knew we had the hardware, but they haven't done a turntable at the University Theatre since I think 2007. And I saw it as an opportunity to put one on stage and give the actors and the technicians a chance to work with a turntable, because at the opera, I averaged at least 1, if not 2, sometimes 3 turntables a year in different shows. So to me, it was something that would be worthwhile. The idea behind the show is that these people are trapped in Skid Row and they can't leave, they can't get out for a host of reasons. And what I wanted to do was trap them in a canyon where there wasn't any obvious way to get away from this place because everything was so tall there was nowhere to go. And normally in the Mitchell, you'll see 10 or 12-foot walls. My shortest walls were 12 feet, and we went up to 16 and 20 feet high, which is not typical for the Mitchell, at least. I teach students how to plan, create, and finish scenery, and all aspects of scenery for technical production. I teach drafting classes, I teach basic scene technology classes, I teach painting classes. Lots of it is direct skills kinds of classes, much less lecture.
Big deal about carving, you can't put it back. So, it's better to sneak up on it and get what you want rather than go, oh, gotta stick that back on. Does it stick back on good, John?
No.
I have an assortment of tools. There's knives. These are called Sureform, and I have 2 flavors. I have both. These are both convex. Here's the flat one. There's a flat one. There's a convex one. And what I'll show you eventually is the knife technique, because it's actually the cleanest. If we put this back, what I will just do is use a blunt stylus or a pencil that's seen a little bit of use. A sharp pencil will usually go through your source. Very precise detail work. And it's a little harder to do the short cut. But from here to get to that, what I can do is I can come in here and very rapidly, by controlling what I'm working against, I can very rapidly soften these edges. That one I'm going to cut a little more because I don't like it.
I have a couple of people in my painting class that are like that. They're more interested in trying something hard and maybe failing than trying something easy and succeeding. And I think there's merit in that.
My name's John Drescher. I'm a graduate student here at the University of Wisconsin, and I work in the scene shop in Vilas Hall with Rob all the time. I'm studying scenic design, and Rob is the technical director who works on most of my shows. He's also my supervisor. I'm a TA, and he is like my teacher and advisor as well. So I work with Rob a lot.
One of the things that I'm very aware of in students nowadays, because of the educational system in the US, is they're afraid of taking risks. They've been taught that there is one right answer and you need to give it back to us on the test. And to risk anything else means failure, and failure is the worst thing you can possibly do. And in my experience, I learned more by failing. I've learned more by doing things wrong and learning from it than I ever learned from doing it right the first time. So when they're in my shop, when students are in my shop, I don't punish for honest mistakes. I don't punish for failure. The point to me is to take risks.
What I would suggest, because it won't cost you anything, because this you're just going to have to figure out.
Okay.
John, I can't wait to hear you have a conversation with someone where they keep saying something and you're like, oh, this, and then they're like, no, and then they keep, because you try to guess everything that Rob's going to say, and then he always says, no.
Right.
I'd rather be a professional than a teacher. To me, I don't have to pick each. I can have both because I still work professionally. I was absolutely delighted to be a professional for what amounted to almost 25 years. It was a blast. I loved it. But I also, long-term stability is in teaching because honestly, 2 or 3 of the theaters I worked for once I got to Milwaukee, they were always in financial difficulties because the 21st century is not a time when people go to see live theater. There's so many other options. They can sit on their couch in their pajamas and listen to Dolby surround sound and watch a spectacle piece on a 55-inch TV and be completely happy. Why go see live theater? You have to wear clothes. I don't go see live theater. I don't.
You know.
I only see the stuff I produce because for me, the joy is not in watching the show. The joy is in building it, planning it, and working with the people.
Rob is fantastic at his job. He's one of the best technical directors I've ever worked with. As a supervisor, he's great. He is really knowledgeable. So for everything that he has in people skills, he also has in technical skills. And he can really teach, both me as a graduate student, some of the upper level, tips and tricks of how to make shows work and work with different people and work in different settings, but also teach me like fundamentals that he also teaches undergraduate students, like how to tie knots and how to, build different things out of wood, how to build things out of steel, how to do different painting things. So he has all these wonderful skills and he loves sharing them, which is the best part. And then he and I worked together. I was the designer and he was the technical director for the show that just closed, 6 Characters in Search of an Author. And it was an interesting show that had a lot of different challenges because we had a really rigid configuration. So the theater was set up a certain way with a certain number of seats and a certain stage configuration that we had to work with. And the director and myself, we really wanted to make a lot of like magic happen, which meant doing a lot of special effects that we haven't done in the past. So I came to Rob and said, "Hi Rob, here's my design for the show. It's all special effects. I need us to figure out a way to do this." And it was really great because instead of him saying, "No, we can't do that. That's too expensive. That's unsafe. We can't do that," he said, "Oh, great. Yeah, great. Let's do it. Let's make sure we have." He used each of those moments as an opportunity for a student to meet one of those challenges. So every one of our special effects was made by a student under Rob's direction, and it was really cool.
Whoa! When did that happen?
He wanted to do a fountain without water, and what we came up with was a dry ice fogger that was plumbed up through a fountain so that the fog would cascade down because it's heavier than air, and it would cascade down like water, and that was very effective. Figure out if it feeds you. If it doesn't feed you, get out. If it does feed you, figure out how to get good enough at it that someone will pay you to do it. If you ever discover that you're not enjoying the work for more than 3 or 4 days in a row, evaluate why it changed.
So, if you were to use 3 words to describe yourself.
Oh, heavens. Capable, patient, clever. One of the reasons I wanted to do theater is because I didn't care about the money. I wanted to be happy at my day job. And I have a number of friends who hate their job and live for the weekends. And my thought was, I'm there 40 or 50 hours a week. I'd rather enjoy what I'm doing all week long. I think it was my grandfather that said that if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never have a day of work in your life.